This is the first of the architecture commissions. This project successfully demonstrates that architecture can be exhibited within the context of an art gallery. For the first commission, we approached John Wardle Architects. We were looking for an architect that we could collaborate with who would be able to test the process. John, would you maybe talk to the design, the initial seed of the idea and how that's manifest now?
It came out of just through discussion, as we often do, and actually a recollection that I had of a particular poem that marvelled at the Sydney Harbour Bridge, a massive piece of infrastructure and human ingenuity. So C.G. Dennis was actually commissioned at the completion of the Sydney Harbour Bridge and wrote a poem, I Dips Me Lid. You know, I pay reference, admiration to the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And so we playfully took that to another version of the word Sydney, to a Christian name, and we dipped our lid to the Sydney Mime Music Bowl in Melbourne, and looking at the marvel of that structure and its the generous vision that was at its time, and the reference that we have had to it ever since is a bit of public architecture that sits in a landscape.
To build a small project like this in an art gallery, how does that change the architectural process?
Yeah, Ewan, it's kind of interesting. It's almost an industrial design, crossing over with architecture, crossing over with, I guess, within an arts setting as well. So it creates a completely different set of constraints. For us, it becomes a laboratory, if you like, for testing ideas, and that's kind of how we approached it, really, was to really think about how can we invest ideas into this project that are really rich and kind of connect with the city and with its place.
This structure merges the digital and the handmade. The design utilises 3D modelling and cutting-edge engineering and fabrication systems to achieve the generous span of the lightweight steel structure.
Effectively, there is a structural layer which is the steelwork, and it's a very fine structure and creates what we call a grid shell structure to achieve the form, which is quite an organic form. Within that, then there's also a layer of timber. The timber structure then provides a fixing mechanism for the most, if you like, decorative layer which happens below that. And the timber also kind of creates almost like a thickening of the structure, and it will be really interesting around the edges, the way it kind of frays and becomes a little bit kind of ragged around the edges, so it kind of starts to pull away from just merely a structural form. And then the third layer, which is as John's holding here, these series of polypropylene brightly coloured pink elements, which then are kind of arrayed across the underside of the structure. And in a way, I guess the interesting thing about this is it almost has a landscape quality. A lot of our work, we like to think about kind of an overlay between landscape and architecture. And in many ways, this almost is like a field of flowers or something like that, which has a connection back into the idea of the backyard and the landscape of the backyard itself.
And in rendering it, we've gone back to the kind of logic we often apply to jobs, which is really looking at the process of making, and Matthew has taken you through the work that's being done, looking into the heartland of small industry in Melbourne, at the kind of people that will make the various aspects of the system that are drawn together into the making of this vast structure.
This project is really at the intersection between 3D modelling and small-scale manufacturing. John's discovered skills and capabilities across the city, many of which are not normally associated with architecture.
These sorts of opportunities draw to the public knowledge the way things are making, and this process of making is something that's fundamentally very interesting to our practice, and to bring it into this arena probably provides the opportunity for the general public to see and know more about the creative capabilities that exist within a city. So a remarkable opportunity to go beyond just the architectural practices and the firms of engineers involved. We think it sort of draws on both the traditions of making and the very firm traditions of craftsmanship, but also the contemporary nature of building and looking at prefabrication, new materials and systems, and really appreciating that we're part of a continuance of the nature of craft, which is what is so much embodied in this project. But looking at contemporary practice with its materials and new systems that become available. So that will be part of the ongoing story as the next firm that undertakes this commission will look at different materials to provide different product manufacturers and other skills that will be exemplified in their range of processes.
Exhibiting evocative, forward-thinking architecture and design enables us to examine how these disciplines enrich culture and society, while also investigating new technical, structural, material and ecological developments that are set to shape the future of our built environment.